I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
Welcome to the Red Pill. I'm Steve Crawford. That was Megadeth. Love that friggin' band. Used to love playing that stuff live. That dude shows up on, he's been on Alex Jones a couple times. I would not mind getting him on this one. Thanks to those who are tuned in. Once again, Steve Crawford. I am here with one of a few hosts that I listen to regularly at this station. I listen to many of the hosts, but one of the regular hosts I listen to is this dude, Mr. Rowe. What are you up to tonight, buddy?
Right. That's what I'm up to. That's how I feel right now. It's a beautiful day. I'm in that spring sort of mode where I want to go out and do really cool things, but yeah, not just yet. And there's just a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'm glad that it's not right outside my window, because it's pretty quiet outside my window right now. And if I go offline suddenly, it's because my cat keeps trying to walk across my keyboard. And every once in a while, her paws fit exactly the right key to do something disastrous. So
That's funny, man. I've got 3 of them. I have to keep them out of the room. Otherwise, they'd be laying right behind me on this couch behind me, just like staring at me and making noise. And yeah, so I got to get them out of the room.
But I'm all right. Yeah, like I said, it's a beautiful day out here in sunny California. It's only 56 degrees according to the thing, but the weather, it just looks so nice. And it's quiet in my neighborhood right now, which is also nice. I don't hear any mariachi music. I don't hear anything like that. Not that mariachi music is bad, mind you, but sometimes on a Sunday evening, you just want some, mellowness, as they say in Holland, rustig,
Absolutely. Sundays used to be X-File days for me.
I do, yes, me too. Actually, I used to watch Cops and then X-Files.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cops might have been Saturdays, but, Now you just go on YouTube and they got all kinds of, I found out that you can FOIA, you can Freedom of Information request police interviews, or I should say interrogations, and body cams and dash cams, which makes sometimes for some entertaining viewing. And, I kind of like the interrogations. I really do. I like to watch people get interrogated. I don't know, maybe it's some sort of sick, twisted thing inside of me.
I have a couple of things up that I'd like to go. Is there anything that's scratching your brain right now that you'd kind of like to get off your chest before he does come in, if he does?
Yeah, but it would probably get a warrant issued for my arrest, so I won't refrain from saying that. So, no, not really.
Dude, I've been begging for them, essentially, to arrest me. Like,
I don't want any trouble. No.
Well, I was thinking about it. I was prepared
it was interesting.
to be a martyr.
I saw a meme where there's like, I think it's a picture of Clint Eastwood, and he's sitting there with his gun and all that, and he's just kind of got this smirk and look on his face. And the meme says, just wait till the people that just want to be left alone get involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to be left alone. That's all. Just leave me alone.
Dude, when I came to this network, okay, Bruce sends a message saying it's not working like it used to, so I don't know what to say about that.
Skypey, maybe. Huh?
Yeah, maybe his Skype isn't working.
Unless he has a number. If he has a phone number that he wants to send to you, if you don't have it, I can dial him in. If you can't dial him in, I can dial him in, but we need a number.
Shouldn't I be able to contact him here though through Facebook? Do a call, and because I'm sharing my audio.
Don't know. I don't know that. It's hit and miss. That's on you.
Yeah.
So it might work, it might not. Like one of us may not hear. It's all crazy when you do that.
Right.
But if you can have him send you a phone number, we can certainly call it.
Nombre. Okay. Because I do want to talk to him, and he does want to be on. He's just having issues. All right, so let's see if he gets back to me. And in the meantime, what did I want to? Geez, I'm just kind of repeating myself, but with everything that's going on right now, it's all part of the plan. Even Mike Gaddy was just saying this a few minutes ago too about, it's all set up in a way that there's really not too much we could do about. We've got these laws, but like everybody there likes to keep telling me, it's not really. It is on paper. But we don't really have the right to go and attack these criminals in office. If everything is set up against us, how are we supposed to do anything?
Well, it's unfortunate. That's the end result. Obviously, in any type of, conflict of this, when, unfortunately things usually, devolve to violence and guns and that kind of thing. And it is obviously the last thing that anybody wants, and that's the whole reason people want to make sure that they exhaust every absolute bit of diplomacy and options, as far as social disobedience or whatnot before, they actually, and because also you have a chance if fighting does break out, you have a chance that a lot of these people can get away during the chaos. And you want these people to serve justice, or you want these people to face justice, I should say, and be, rightfully arrested and tried, and you want the order to remain. And also you don't want to be the one that draws first blood. The people obviously don't want to be the one to initiate an attack. So if it came down to that, it would have to be so blatant by the government. Like if they took an Apache gunship and just started mowing the crowds down, that kind of stuff, then okay, all bets are off. Or if the police just start firing into the crowd, throwing whatever.
Isn't it too late at that point?
Well, it hasn't come to that, and I would say no, because there are so many citizens that if that did happen, which is also, I think, the reason why the governments don't want that to happen too, because they know that there's a chance they'd be overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. Some strategic things that would be taken, and the government wouldn't stand a chance because it would quickly turn into a big crap show, and they don't want that. Doing the entire, it would unite the people against the government. Right now, the people are fragmented. There's a lot of people that are still on the side of the authoritarians, that want to. I've seen Antifa, while they're rioting in one city, the one Antifa posted on Twitter to the Ottawa police that they're doing a good job. Talk about hypocrisy.
Bruce just sent his number. Can you see it?
Oh, let me look. I'm not looking. Yeah, hang on a second. Dial! All right, calling that number now. We've got it, I think. By George. Oh, I got to check the pizza. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Oh. Sounds like the telephone still works.
Up there you are, Bruce.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right.
What's
okay.
up?
So, let's do a quick thing here. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Bruce Maccabee. I'm gonna read a bit of what Wiki's got to say, and Bruce, you chime in if they've got anything wrong here. Okay. Bruce Maccabee, born May 6, 1942, is an American optical physicist, formerly employed by the U.S. Navy, and a ufologist. That's how they've got you listed here. Biography. Maccabee received a BS in physics at I'm probably going to say it wrong, but Worcester Polytechnic.
Worcester.
How is it?
As if there's no R in there. Worcester.
Oh, okay. Polytechnic Institute in Massachusetts, then American University in Washington, D.C., where you got your MS and PhD in physics. In 1972, he began his career at the Naval Ordnance Laboratory, White Oak, Silver Spring, Maryland, which later became the Naval Surface Warfare Center. Maccabee retired from government service in 2008, and he worked on optical data processing, a generation of underwater sound with lasers, and various aspects of SDI, Strategic Defense Initiative, and ballistic missile defense using high-powered lasers. That's very cool. When it comes to ufology, Maccabee has been interested in UFOs since the late 60s when he joined the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, NICAP, and was active in research and investigation for NICAP until its demise in 1980. And he became a member of MUFON in 75, was subsequently appointed to a position of director for Maryland. And it says you still hold that position. Do you, Bruce?
No, I do not. I left there 10 or so years ago.
Okay. So that's probably the last time this was updated. In 79, he was instrumental in establishing the Fund for UFO Research and was chairman for about 13 years. UFO research investigations include, which he often stresses are completely unrelated to his Navy work, have included the Kenneth Arnold sighting. Let's
We're coming
spend
up
a few
on a big anniversary for that.
Yeah, so let's get into that, and I'll read down these, and we'll talk about each thing for a little bit. Now, so what did you, because I'm interested in the Kenneth Arnold stuff, what did you find was the conclusions there?
In the Kenneth Arnold case?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, when I first read it, it doesn't seem to be that impressive. A one-person sighting, it lasted a few minutes, and there's no photos or hardware or anything left over after it's over.
Right.
But I was interested in the way it was explained as a mirage. If you go into the Project Blue Book files, which you can get online now, you go to the Project Blue Book file for June 24th, 1947, you get the Kenneth Arnold sighting. It's labeled a mirage. And of course, if you read the Kenneth Arnold's own report on it, it couldn't be a mirage. He was talking about mountaintop mirages, which whoever offered this explanation was talking about mountaintop mirages, which is if you're in an airplane about the height of the mountaintop, you can sometimes see a reflection, an inverted image of the top of the mountain. But the one thing about a mountaintop mirage is it stays above the mountaintop.
Right.
Arnold saw all 99 of these objects go zipping from far left, to the left of his sighting direction, all the way past in front of him, down to the south. So a huge angular change.
Mm-hmm.
And so it obviously couldn't have been a mountaintop mirage. Nevertheless, that's the official explanation. And that and other cases that I looked at in the early days, the early days for me were the latter half of the 60s. The other cases I looked at, they were offering explanations that made no sense from the physics point of view.
Yeah.
And so I was asking myself, why would they do that? Why is this stupid explanation still there after all these years? They haven't revised it, so I guess it amounts to they don't know what they're doing.
or they do. Or they do know what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, I guess I don't think they were that smart in the early days. Anyway, I looked up a number of other sightings that I worked on in which the original explanations weren't any good, like the Gemini 11.
Right.
Sighting,
Okay.
Where NORAD, North American defense radar defense stuff.
Right.
They claimed that they claimed that the Gemini 11 astronauts saw a Russian booster go past them,
Right.
close enough so they could photograph it. They got a couple of photographs of this thing, whatever it was. And NORAD said the official explanation was this Russian booster, and it made no sense because the Russian booster would have had to be. They said a Russian booster 200 and some miles away, and it would have had to have been a gigantic thing for it to make an image as large as it did on the film.
Right.
Knowing a little bit about photography and imaging and so on, optics, I said this makes no sense. So then I went through the drudgery of learning how to do orbital calculations, and we had data on the Russian satellite and data on the Gemini 11, and the calculation showed that they were 3,000 miles apart, and the Proton 3 Russian booster was not only 3,000 miles away, it was behind them. They couldn't have seen it anyway.
Right. And if they could have seen it, it would have been a speck, if at all.
Yeah, right. Well, 3,000 miles, it would be a speck for sure, something that's only 20 feet in size. The type of thing that interested me was these garbage explanations.
Yeah.
So then,
It's just
in the middle 70s, I decided to start doing some, instead of just reading about things, start doing some actual investigations. And
nice.
If I had known what I was getting into, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I took on the Trent photo case. The Trent photo was taken in May 11th, 1950.
Yeah.
Probably the two most publicized pictures ever, because they're perfectly clear as to what's there, and it's clearly either the real thing or a hoax. There's no halfway point.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a fuzzy image that you couldn't be sure of what it was. You can be sure that it's not an airplane, not Superman, not anything you can name. So anyway, that was analyzed also by the Condon report. People, William Hartman was a photo analyst for the Condon study, and he not only did admirable photo work, photometry and photography working together to learn something about the image of this object.
Mm-hmm.
He also went and talked to the Trents, and he wrote in his report that it seemed to be the only case in which all factors investigated seemed to indicate that a extraordinary flying object, to use his terminology, an EFO, flew within the sight of two witnesses. In other words, he left it wide open.
Right.
All the rest of the cases he looked at, he panned one way or another.
Right.
So anyway, I thought it might be interesting to try to see whether or not he was right in what he did. And if I had known what it was going to take to advance the knowledge of the Trent case, I certainly would have hesitated to do it. But starting in 1974, I actually managed to get a hold of the actual negatives and do measurements on them. I told Mrs. Trent, I asked her if she would mind if I borrowed the negatives for a couple of months or a couple of weeks to do some measurements, and she said that was okay. And nice. I returned them 20 years later.
At least better late than never. Yeah.
Yeah, they led to two papers that are on my website. May as well give that out right away. brumac.mysite.com.
Right.
BRUMAC.MYSITE.com. brumac.mysite.com. And you can scan down big long list of cases. There's more than 60 cases of various types.
Nice. Yeah.
And that collection is
publications. Yeah, there's a lot of info here for people listening, and especially anybody who likes Dan Willis and has his site. This is one you're going to want to add to it. So Brumac, BRUMAC.mysite.com.
Did you just check it?
Okay, and so you think that the Trent photos are either the real thing or somehow a hoax that we haven't figured out?
Right.
Mm.
Well, some people think they figured it out, but they haven't.
Yeah, exactly.
The most recent, well, it's been called everything from a garbage can lid to a truck mirror.
Even a hubcap, it kind of looks like an old hubcap, but not quite. You know, that's just what springs to mind for me. What about you, Mr. Rowe? What do you think of those photos?
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the photos right now online, and I mean, they're pretty clear. And
like I said, it's either the real thing or a hoax. There's no halfway point.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Have you ever heard of, what is it they call those things that they move extremely fast?
Oh, like those rod things?
Rods, yeah. I was wondering if you've heard of rods, and apparently they're like what could be, I mean, maybe a type of life form, and they've been catching them on high-speed film. They kind of swim through the air. They're so fast, they're invisible to the naked eye. Have you heard of this? Do you have any comments?
I looked into that in one case, and I got a discussion of it on the web page.
Nice.
Apparently, they're insects that fly close to the camera. You see the fact that the wings are going as they go traveling along means that the wings sort of sweep out create an image of a wavy image, and the wavy image may or may not extend the whole length of the image as it's traveling along.
Right.
The wings are generally from front to back measurement of the wings is usually a lot less than the front to back measurement of the fuselage, the main body of the insect.
Mm-hmm.
So you see these things going up and down. You imagine going through the field of view with these wings going up and down fast enough so that they create a wavy track, a wavy image on the film, whatever you're using. And so I'm afraid that at least most rods are insects of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They just move too fast for us to see, I would think.
I do have one other, if you have a comment on what are known as orbs, which are seen on the infrared spectrum. When you have an infrared camera, a lot of times you can pick these up. Any comments on those?
Yeah, there's two types of orbs. I found out I was able to experiment with one type, which turned out to be tiny dots of dust or tiny insects or something like that get in the field of view, within the area that's illuminated by light. There are orbs that require light. You send out a light beam, for example, from your camera, or orbs that don't need any source of light.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that don't need any light are what I'd call the true orbs, whereas the ones that you only see if you got a light beam, it became popular to get orbs about the middle 90s, or early 90s, 1890s, when, not 1990s, it is 1990s, not 1890s. It became popular when they started getting these small cameras where the flash tube was only about an inch from the aperture, the lens aperture.
Mm-hmm.
When you had the earlier type of a flash camera where the flash is in a special holder you hold up next to the camera, and it could be 6 or 8 or 10 inches between the aperture, the lens opening, and where the flash takes place. But when they started getting the flash really close to the aperture, then people started getting these images, various, mostly round, diffuse sort of images of various sizes. And some people would go out into the woods and take pictures of orbs, or stand next to a driveway or next to the road and get pictures of orbs and so on. And what they were getting was flash coming back from particulate matter in the air.
Okay. I can jive with that, except I've actually had personal experience in my living room. I have video of these things that can only be seen in the infrared, and they are not only, some of them flash and change direction, but they change shape as well. Some of them blink and flash. I don't know if you've seen the video, Steve, that has gone through filters that shows these orbs. But I'll go ahead and see if I can dig it up and put it in our chat.
That would be cool. Yeah.
My personal, take on it is I think that there is a type of, I guess you could call it a life form that is like a natural, like an animal or something, except it exists in a state that's not physical. It's more like a plasma state, and it's on the wavelength of light is just off of our visual spectrum.
Right.
Yeah, 8/10 of a micron wavelength, or 7/10 to 8/10 of a micron. But what I'm saying is the type of orbs that people were getting on demand, more or less, by using a camera with a flash. I first started hearing of those things in the late 1980s or the early 1990s, but I was wondering, what are all these things that people are reporting? And some guy sent me. This, by the way, is all on the website. On one of the articles is by investigation of these what I call flash orbs. This guy sent me an email saying he just bought a new camera and taking pictures with it, pictures at night with a flash. For some reason or other, he was getting images in there that had nothing to do with what he was photographing, and he wondered if there was something wrong with his camera. And I wrote back to him suggesting, I couldn't think of anything wrong with his camera. I wrote back to him suggesting some experiments he might try and see if characterize what's going on. And he said that he did one experiment where he had his kids jump up and down on a rug. Before they were jumping up and down, there was only one or two orbs. When they started jumping up and down on the rug, the field of view was filled with orbs. And of course, it took me 4 microseconds to figure out what that was. Dust particles from the rug were creating these orbs.
Yeah.
So I did some experiments and found out that that's what happened, because these particles are within a few inches of the lens aperture. The light that reflects back. Now you think about it, there's a little teeny object that you're lighting with a considerable amount of light, and if it's up close to the camera, it's a big bright flash, and if it's far from the camera, it's smaller and very dim. Because if it gets too far away from the camera, you don't get it at all.
Yeah.
But anyway, that explained the flash orbs.
Unless it's pulsing.
I divided orbs into 2 types, namely
the
ones where you have to have a flash to see it, and the ones that you don't, and what I call the true orbs are the ones that you don't.
Yeah.
I am aware of this infrared situation, and that's goes a long ways beyond orbs, too, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've seen what would be described as like light snakes and this thing that looks like a spider or a cobweb that follows and changes direction. And I don't know, it might be getting into the paranormal.
Well, if you're using a light source like these in the middle 90s or so.
No light sources would be used. It'd be the only...
Yeah, right. When they started having these video cameras, which were see at night, where they send out a infrared beam that you can't quite see.
Right,
and it illuminates the surrounding out to some distance, and the light coming back is picked up by the camera. And this is all well and good. This is all going to be done at the near infrared of about 7/10, 8/10 of a micron, maybe out to 1 micron wavelength. Well, you can do it without breaking the bank, because silicon naturally is a natural converter of photons at 7 or 8/10 of a micron to electricity. In other words, you can make up a array of semiconductor, silicon semiconductor make up the image. And you can't see it because it's too far in the red for your eye to see, but the camera can see it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can use the camera as a sort of a night vision device. Night vision usually is applied to ordinary light, is amplified by electronics, so that you get color and so on. But anyway, if you're sending out a beam and you're getting a reflection coming back, then you could be reflecting off of dumb particles. You have to have some other way of deciding whether or not it's a real orb or whatever in that case.
Right. I've seen orbs in the sky at night. I haven't seen what would be considered the super. I've seen plenty of ghosts. Haven't seen the supernatural orbs. Just in videos. The ones that pulse and self-illuminate, those are the ones you can tell are real.
Okay, I did just post the video of the filtered anomalies that was captured in 2019 at my place. So it is in our Skype chat. I know that Bruce is on a telephone, but maybe later, when you get back, you'll see it in Skype at one point. But yeah, just for your perusal.
Have you posted a URL for it?
It's actually.
Let's take a look at it right now. It's only a couple minutes. Yeah, okay. So for people listening, you're not going to be able to see this, but we're looking at pictures of. Oh, there's one there. Okay. Oh yeah, he's on the phone still too. But okay, yeah, these are changing direction.
And then you're going to see like what referred to like a light snake in a second. Now they're enlarging and enhancing to go through the filter to see if anything can be determined. Mm-hmm. Which really, it's still undetermined.
That's weird. What the heck is in that? That light, it looks like there's like a little thing sitting inside that light.
Have you got let's see.
I don't have a URL because this is actually a video that I've got on my system that I put in our Skype.
I might be able to send it to you on Facebook, though. Maybe
yeah,
able
you
to
can do that.
Paste it to you. Yeah, so
you're welcome to do that. Now that's some sort of weird-looking light streak that changes shape and direction. It's not an orb.
Trippy.
It see how it moves like a. And that all happened within a fraction of a second. This is obviously slowed down. Mm-hmm. But this thing's like, here it is in real time.
1 second here. I'll pause that.
What were you using to get this imagery?
I was actually testing a security camera. It's like one of those, like you buy them on Amazon. And it's activated by motion and an infrared. And I was in the other room. And all of a sudden, the motion sensor went off, and I got up and looked, and I didn't see anything. And it took a few times for this happening, and finally I decided to check the recorded footage because it records a few minutes. And that's how I discovered this. I'm like, wait a minute. And so I've noticed that on some of the footage, these things hover over some of my DJ equipment. They also seem to hang around my cat. They come at certain times. They only come when it's very quiet, and like in the evenings or in the early wee hours of the morning.
Right. Does your cat get spazzed out by them?
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay,
Not
so
at all.
if it is a spirit, it's one that they're used to.
Is your cat starting an investigation? Find out what's going on?
Well, the cat does sometimes look around and act a little strange at times, but not disturbed or anything like that.
Okay, I sent it to you, Bruce, on Facebook, so it should be on the chat that we use on Facebook now.
And this is one of, I have dozens of videos like this. They usually come around between 4 and 6 a.m. or after 11 at night.
You put it on the
Yeah,
messenger?
that looked like it's self-illuminated. It was kind of pulsating, that last one there.
Yeah, so they do act
Put it on
different.
the messenger or something else?
Oh, I sent it to you to the thing that I've been chatting with you on Facebook, so there should be a video sitting in there.
Probably Messenger.
Yeah, I guess it would be Messenger.
I don't use Facebook, but I used to a long time ago before they banned me.
Yeah, whatever we've been chatting to back and forth to on for Facebook.
The phone number I sent on Messenger.
Yeah, okay.
You responded, we are going to try stand by, and then the phone, I had put down a phone number sent. Obviously, okay, so I don't see anything else added on yet.
Oh, maybe it's still uploading then? That could be.
It's maybe it'll take a second to upload.
Yeah, it's still got it's like it's taking a long time to do the last minute or so of it.
Anyway, a lot of people are getting invisible things up in the atmosphere, too. Flying around, they're doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah, and large things, too. Apparently, I think, was it Story Musgrave was talking about something he saw that looked like it was a living creature?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know about that specifically.
I've heard that there are, reports of things that look like large amoebas.
Right.
Yeah, there was a guy called Trevor Constable who wrote a book about the things that he could see that were invisible. Big amoeba-like things in the atmosphere.
Right.
And of course, he didn't get a lot of positive reinforcement on that.
Yeah.
But he might have been barking up the right tree at least.
Absolutely. I totally believe that. I've seen too many things myself that I can't explain. So
I've heard talk, and when I was working at TRW, people would talk about things that were in the atmosphere that were not supposed to be talked about. We don't talk about those things. Well, you don't talk about what things exactly? What? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Where were you at TRW?
Down at Redondo Beach at Space Park for a while, and then I was up at a satellite office in the Bay Area, and SNITG.
I used to go when I was with the Navy. I was on the SDI Strategic Defense Initiative program, working with.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Big lasers.
Yeah, absolutely.
10 meter diameter optics in order to shoot down missiles.
Sounds like tactical high energy, the tactical high energy laser that they worked on. Yeah.
Yeah, right. That was a miracle. MIRACL chemical laser.
That was actually one of the more fun jobs that I've ever had. It's actually.
I guess playing with laser beams. Come on, frickin' lasers.
Lasers from space, right?
Wow.
Well, as I recall, the TRW place where they did all the experiments, where they had the lasers and hardware and so on, was just inland from President Nixon's home, where he lived when he was in California. And they said there were a number of times when they wanted to turn the laser onto the flag that was up above Nixon's property, but they didn't do it.
They could have burned a crop circle.
That was way back in the middle to the latter 70s.
Were you saying burn a cross into his lawn?
No, burn a crop circle into his lawn.
Oh, a crop circle. Yeah, that'd be hilarious. Okay, what about the Tehran UFO incident? What conclusions did you come to that one? That was September 76.
Right, that was where I can't quite pull his name out. Parvizo something. Anyway, he was a colonel in the Iranian Air Force. This was before the Shah got kicked out.
Right.
This was in 1976. And so we were still really locked into their defense systems and taking care of their aircraft and so on. And this is a rather long story. It's the highest points that Mehrabad Airport at Tehran is the name of the capital of Iran. And one night in September 19th, or whatever it was, of 1976, guy in charge at the control tower, monitoring all the flights in and out of the area and so on, started receiving phone calls from people in a certain northwest area of this big city, and they kept responding and describing a strange object with multiple lights and shape to it and so on. And the guy brushed off the first few calls as being trivial, but then when the calls kept on, he said he went and got a pair of binoculars, focused them in on a distant light so they would be in focus, and then turned it in the direction of where people had been reporting stuff. And sure enough, there was something there. So he called up, now they're just south of Russia, and this is back in the good old days when the Cold War could break into a hot war at almost any time in certain locations. So anyway, he called up a general who was, I suppose, the general on duty or whatever at the time, and the general looked in the area and he saw it too. So he scrambled a jet from this distance of 90 miles or something like that. The jet went screaming up towards this. Turns out to be the pilot could see a bright object with flashing lights up above the northern part of the city. And the pilot could see that all the way from where he had achieved his flight altitude.
Right.
He could see it over 100 miles away, and was flying there as fast as he could go, essentially maybe approaching Mach 2. And as soon as he got to within a certain distance, he lost all control of his aircraft. All electronically assisted controls. Fortunately, they have mechanical backup. He was able to turn the rudder and turn his jet away from this object, and he landed his plane. So the general sent up another one, and the other guy, Parvez Jafari, who ended up being a general in the Air Force. Okay. He was a colonel at the time, I believe. Parvez Jafari, his story is in the book UFOs, Generals and Politicians and Others Speak Up, by Leslie Kean.
Oh, okay.
His story is in her book about how he was flying towards this object and seeing some sorts of lights, and all of a sudden the object emitted a ball of light that seemed to be coming towards Jafari's plane. Jafari, thinking this was a threatening situation, tried to arm his infrared-seeking missile to blow up this small thing or whatever that was released the first one. No sooner did he begin this turning of keys and pushing buttons and so on to arm the missile, then all of a sudden he lost control of his aircraft, and had to rely on the mechanical capability of turning the aircraft away from this. As soon as he was headed away from this object, he regained control of his aircraft. That had happened to the first guy too. As soon as he turned away from it, he regained control of his aircraft. Sounds very much like, quote, they, unquote, have a long reach.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how we can disarm somebody else's missile system just by looking at them. Anyway, that's in a nutshell the core of the story. There's a lot of details that I obviously have glossed over.
And what do you think about the validity of it?
Oh, I think it's valid.
Yeah, it sounds like it to me.
I learned about it within days of its happening, and had actually gotten copies of interviews by the National Enquirer. The National Enquirer back in those days was pretty active in investigating UFO sightings, and they talked to the airport air traffic controller who had initially seen this and saw all these activities of the jets and the object over the city of Tehran. He watched all this happen, and he was interviewed by two different people. And Jafari was interviewed a little bit too, but he didn't really speak out.
Okay, Bruce, we got a 5-minute break. The music's starting, so we're at the commercials. We'll be back in 5 minutes with Bruce Maccabee and Mr. Rowe. All right, the Red Pill. I'm Steve Crawford. I am back. Just 1 second here. Okay. Back with Mr. Rowe. As you can tell, I was partaking at the end of the break. I always wait till there's 5 seconds left before the end of the song to inhale. Really shouldn't do that. Yeah. You still here, Bruce?
Yep, I'm still here.
Fantastic. And Mr. Rowe, you're still here, buddy?
I think so.
No,
you think so? Awesome.
I have to warn you, this is a new phone. I've never done an interview on it, so I don't know if it'll handle 2 hours straight. If we die.
Okay. It sounds good though. You're coming through loud and clear. So that's great. Okay, so we left off. We were talking about Tehran, the experience over there with that UFO. Mr. Rowe, you got something you'd like to bring up?
No, I not about Iran, but I was wondering if there were any stories of incidences with unidentified submersible objects, USOs, things going into the ocean.
Yeah, none that I've worked on.
Okay.
I was working for the Navy. I was not in the Navy. I was not on any ship as a research laboratory.
It's trippy, though. You would think, though, even working for them, that they would have had some picture of something over the water that they would have wanted you to check out. Trippy.
I kept my UFO research at a low profile as I could.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah. Yeah. I guess you would have to back then because they were just making fun. Even though they knew it was real, they still had to mock everybody.
Well, a few people knew it was real.
Any comments on it's not really a UFO, but the Black Knight satellite?
No, good call.
I have no comment on that.
Okay.
Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it.
You've heard of it, but
that's about it.
Okay. I thought you were being mysterious for a second there. Oh, nope, no comment on that. I was told I cannot talk about it.
You neither confirm nor deny.
No comment, because I don't have anything to say about it. I don't even know all that I read about it. I haven't paid much attention to the satellite situation.
It's something that kind of freaks me out too. Gets my noggin going. Huh? I've seen the pictures of it, but there hasn't, as far as I know. Maybe Roy, you know better. Has anybody come out with an explanation of what they think that is or what it actually is?
I mean, I've heard that they think it's a 13,000-year-old object. I've heard other folks think that it's nothing but space junk. There's somebody said it was a natural object. It's just in an orbit like a chunk, like a extremely small moon or whatever. Personally, I think my gut instinct tells me it is a piece of technology that I'm sort of going along with the ancient 13,000-year-old chunk of hardware that is maybe still in use. And we just it's still up there because we can't.
It's a block of granite.
What was that?
Disguised as a block of granite.
Exactly. Yeah.
The pictures I saw of it looks like it could be some sort of. It doesn't look like it's natural. That's for sure.
It's like an odd black, almost onyx type of material, and it has some. It's an odd shape, but there is some symmetrical aspects to it if you look at it from the right angle. And
this is supposedly something that's been orbiting around the Earth, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's been orbiting the Earth for.
How high up?
Let's see if I can get the information here. Apparently it's in a polar orbit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's odd too.
It was just, let's see, 1954 researcher Donald Kehoe told newspapers that the Air Force had reported that 2 satellites had been detected. And at that time, no country had the technology to launch a satellite.
Right.
Right.
That lends a little bit of credence to it.
So the Dark Knight satellite is one of those, or 2 of them together, or what? I remember the story about that Kehoe had about the discovery of satellites, natural satellites of the Earth, and it never seemed to go anywhere.
And, well, maybe they were, yeah. Well, first they obviously couldn't go up there to verify it at that time. And if they did, they probably wouldn't want that to get out. Let's see, Gordon Cooper.
Somebody would have noticed if there had been a takeoff of a rocket from Cape Canaveral or some other place. It's a little noisy.
Unless they had secret tech at that point, even.
And now there's in 1960, the U.S. Navy detected a dark object thought to be a Soviet spy satellite, but a follow-up confirmed that the object was apparently the remains of an Air Force Discoverer 8 satellite that had gone astray. And in 73, Duncan Lunan analyzed the long-delayed radio echoes received by Howells and others and speculated that they could possibly originate from a 13,000-year-old alien probe located in an orbit around the Earth's moon. And he suggested the probe may have originated from a planet located in the solar system of the star Epsilon Bootis. Then he retracted his conclusions, saying he made errors. Interesting that he would retract, though. Like maybe somebody went up to say, hey, man, space photographed in 1998 during the STS-88 mission has been widely claimed to be the Black Knight satellite. And that's where the famous photos are. They come from the STS-88 mission. So if you Google Black Knight satellite and then go to the images, you'll see pictures of it.
Well, I haven't been keeping up on my Black Knights or White Knights for that matter. So I recall Lunan and I recall Kehoe and I recall some other stuff, I guess, but nothing I'd ever worked on, try to track down.
Okay, yeah.
I figured my goal in this ufology stuff was to find a case that was rock solid, prove that UFOs are real, unquote, which we know is true if you broaden UFO to anything up there that we don't know what it is. But I was interested in the NHI, non-human intelligence type UFOs.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to send you these pictures on the link for these pictures of it, and because it looks like a ship, but you've seen a lot more of those types of things, so you should be able to hazard a better guess than I can.
Any comments on the cigar-shaped UFOs that are seen going into volcanoes, cylindrical things?
That's another. I recall seeing a video taken in Mexico. Some guy was videotaping Popocatépetl, I guess, and this thing comes zipping along and it seems to disappear into the mouth of the volcano. Well, it's you need a hot tip as how to get in there without turning into lava yourself. Anyway, again, that's another thing I've heard about, but haven't investigated.
I mean, anybody with that kind of technology, I mean, if you could, immerse yourself in.
My favorite case was really a group of sightings off the coast, the eastern coast of the South Island of New Zealand in December 1978. They made international news when they broke because one of the witnesses was a newspaper or TV anchor, TV reporter, and he had along with him a cameraman with 16 millimeter color movie film, professional camera. Basically, it was a news crew that was on board this airplane when all sorts of stuff broke out, including radar sightings by the crew and tapes, audio tapes made at the time things were happening, which is kind of hard to beat because you usually don't have all this stuff ready at a moment's notice.
Kaikoura.
Yeah, that's right, the Kaikoura sightings. You can look that up. Anyway, I've written a bunch of papers, big analyses of that are on the website. And the reason I like it so much is it's got seven people who were eyewitnesses to the various aspects of what happened. 5 on the airplane and 2 in the Wellington Radar Air Traffic Control Center, who were able to tell me they were calling out targets to the airplane, radar targets to the airplane. The people on the airplane would look in a certain direction and see if they could see something. Sometimes they did. So anyway, you had 2 experienced pilots working this aircraft, camera crew that happened to be on board on December 31st because of sightings that had happened 10 days earlier. They were trying to get background footage for a news story on what had happened 10 days earlier and became involved in their own sightings, along with the instrumentation they had. Most UFO sightings, the only instrumentation you might have would be a camera of some sort. They had this 8 millimeter professional film and a professional cameraman operating it, a reporter on board the airplane who was making tape recordings of what was going on. You don't generally have a guy calling signals at the time things are happening. And let's see, they had radar on the plane and radar on the ground radar. So you have radar, recorded optical movies, and somebody calling the action as it happens. And I think it's the only case in the whole collection of UFO cases that has that much data in it.
It's just wild. So on your site here, this The Legacy of 1952, the Year of the UFO, that's your most recent book?
That's the most recent book, yeah.
Okay,
what's on the website is most of what's in the book is on the website, but there's some other stuff in the book that didn't get onto the website.
Okay. So, and you can also find Bruce's books on Amazon for paper and Kindle editions. So make sure you check that stuff out.
The FBI CIA UFO connection. Abduction
Phoenix
of my
Lights.
family. Yeah, I have a paper on Phoenix Lights on the website too.
Do you too? Okay. So what do you think? Briefly, because we want people to go to your site and read this stuff.
Phoenix
but
or Marfa?
What's that?
Phoenix and also Marfa lights, right? Are they the same type of thing?
The Marfa lights are individual tiny lights that appear over a certain area of Texas, I think it is.
Yeah.
And they're not very often. Well, often enough so people would be willing to go out and watch to see if something appears. They don't do very much. I guess they turn on and move around a little bit. And the big thing is nobody's been able to explain how they happen in the first place.
Okay, I was going to say, is that natural?
Well, apparently they've been doing that for as long as anybody can remember in history.
Right.
So
it's similar to there are other places like there's some road, I can't think of what it is, on the internet, a stretch of two-lane road. You can see from one location to another location, a mile or 2 miles or something away, and people report sitting there and seeing a light appear, apparently a mile or 2 miles away from them. It'll appear and go out, reappear, nobody again in a situation that nobody knows. The first explanation that's all offered is, it's car headlights. But apparently these things occur when there aren't any cars around.
I have no doubt that the light refraction and things, that sometimes it could be car headlights. There's this thing here in where I live, near Port Colborne, near where I live. There's this one road as you're driving down it. There's the Robin Hood Flower Factory, and
it's bigger or smaller. Go ahead.
Right. Yes. Like it looks like it's really close. And then as you're getting closer to it, then all of a sudden it gets tiny again and it's far away. It's just really trippy.
I guess their theme song is Stolen Flowers, huh?
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because when I was homeless in Port Colborne, and we used to pull Mission Impossible little missions and go in there to get flour to make bread. We had a friend that would let us use an oven. His mom would go to work, so we get this bread mix, go to his place and make fresh bread and just eat that.
I guess you could pour some vitamins on the bread.
Yep. And
anyway, I've had some action with respect to this 2004 Tic Tac video. I worked through that day also. Day, what's his name? The radar guy. Day is his last name. Anyway, he told me about these objects going up at 40,000 feet, traveling along at a slow speed, and then dropping down almost to the surface of the water underneath, a distance of 40,000 feet or something like that, in 7.78 seconds. And this leads to a huge acceleration. You have to accelerate downwards, get up to speed, and then decelerate so you don't crash into the what's below, which in this case was water. And I calculated hundreds of Gs, maybe thousands of Gs, depending on exactly how you're going to, what your velocity profile was going to be, whether you're going to try to achieve an extremely high velocity right off the bat, or increase your velocity slowly to a certain point and then decrease it slowly being still several thousand feet per second squared.
Is your son's name Ashley?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted queuing up a video for at the end of the show. We're going to play us out with one of your songs. It says Ashley and Bruce, so I just want to make sure I got the right Bruce Maccabee up on screen for later.
Yeah. Which song?
When I Was Younger, studio take.
Yeah, right, yeah. That was done in honor of Dave Brubeck, who had
That's right, that's the one I played last time. Okay, actually, you know what? So this is the 3-minute version. Let's just play it right now. People who didn't know, Bruce is a flippin' amazing keyboardist. His son's an extremely talented drummer. And I'm going to play a song that, Bruce should be like Mr. Grammy. If he had stayed away from UFOs, this dude would have been winning Grammys. So this is him and his son playing a tribute to, or influenced by Brubeck, right? You were saying?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, When I Was Younger, studio take. nice.
Yay!
Yeah.
Like that, yeah. What kind of drums is he playing? Do you know?
Regular drums. I'm not a drummer, so I don't know if there's anything.
Yeah, the make of the
unusual.
kit. Okay, because his cymbals, they gave me a Woody. I was like, damn, those are beautiful.
Well, I not being a drummer, I know he does. He actually is a drum teacher now in near Frederick, Maryland.
Nice.
And he's working on his own stuff. He's also an artist. If you go
Painter,
to
sculptor?
You go to AshleyMaccabee.com and you can see his art as well as his music.
Fantastic. And that is Maccabee, Maccabee.
Yes.
All right, now let's get back to ufology. Or, Brody, you got a question of something you'd like to ask Bruce that he may or may not have heard of?
No, I'm just sitting back right now listening.
Okay. All right, so let's see. Where did I want to go with this? Actually, Bluebeam. Have you heard of Project Bluebeam?
I heard of it. I forget exactly what it was.
It's alleged to be that there's going to be a fake alien invasion, and apparently this was brought up on Werner von Braun's deathbed. I think her name was Carol. One of Dan Willis's friends had said that he claimed that there was going to be a pandemic, then a meteor, and then it was going to end off with a fake alien invasion using Project Bluebeam and vehicles that we have either captured or created on our own here, alien reproduction vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking if you look on...
Again, it's not something I paid much attention to. I recognize the term, but I didn't know you knew more about it than I do.
Yeah, and I still know very little. I haven't heard much about it for a while. Everybody was talking about it, and there were things that you can see videos on YouTube of this spiral in the sky that people were freaking out over. I think it was Europe. It may have even been like Sweden or something that was in the sky, and I was looking at this. It just looks like one of those hypnotizing spirals that you would see on a cartoon to hypnotize yourself. But you can see a blue beam coming up from the ground, projecting this thing into the sky. And nobody seemed to be saying anything about the beam that was being projected. They were just looking at the thing in the sky and going, oh, where's that coming from? I think that might have been them playing around with it.
Where were they with respect to this beam?
They were, they were on the ground. The beam looked like there was like a small hill, medium type hill behind them. They were, geez, what would that angle be? I've never been good with angles, but they were looking up, 45, I'm thinking, a 45-degree angle up in the sky from where they were standing. But you could see this beam. It looked like it was being projected from the ground, so I couldn't understand why nobody was saying anything about that. But I haven't heard anything more about it, so I'm wondering if they maybe just gave up on the idea altogether or if they moved on and called it something else. I was just thinking maybe you would have heard something about it, not expecting you.
No, the chartreuse beam.
Okay, now what is that?
My name I just made up.
Okay, well, there you go.
More complicated than blue. Chartreuse.
It sounds a lot better. Okay, so no blue beam. What do we got next here? Flying disk file. Actually, let's go to your site here. Papers. Now, what do we got in papers? Voodoo okay, those are papers that you've written. Online articles. Where are...
First of all, when you get to the opening page, you can scan down the opening comments to where you get to a horizontal blue line. The horizontal blue line is a breakpoint between introduction stuff and the various discussions, articles, cases, whatever you want to call it. There's
3
a bunch
minutes.
of them, 60, I think, on the opening page. if you go back to the opening page and look at the left-hand side, you'll see my face.
Right.
And you'll see some, underneath that, there's a little blue box that says papers, and there's some more papers there. So I got some on the opening page.
Okay, there's things. All right. Oh, let's click on this one. We get CIA's UFO explanation is preposterous. In 97. Okay.
That was back in 97 when they announced the dummy, what I call a dummy drop theory of Roswell.
Oh, okay.
These crash dummies were dropped and people mistook them for small creatures somehow.
Right. Wasn't that done a couple years after Roswell too? Didn't they? I'm pretty sure they figured that out too. Like it was something they did, but it was
right at Roswell. They talked about a weather balloon.
Mm-hmm.
Then in 1995, I think it was, they issued their next explanation, which was a mogul balloon, which is much bigger than a weather balloon,
right,
but the same material. Then for the 40th anniversary in 1997, they explained the bodies. They claimed they explained the bodies that were found were crash dummies. Dummies that had been dropped on parachute to test the capability of these parachutes to allow a person to jump out of some high altitude platform and make it to the surface of the earth without turning into a blob of pulp.
And didn't they call it Roswell case closed or something like that?
Yes.
Here's our explanation. Now shut up. This is priceless.
That's why I said it was preposterous. Now, if you scan down on the front page, I forget what the number is, you can read about the White Sands UFOs. There was a perfect 1950 observation case that was proved by itself and covered up.
Actually, Battle of Los Angeles. What do you think of that one?
Well, there's no doubt that there was at least one side, us, were in a battle.
Yeah. Have you seen that picture? And was that picture?
If you read what I wrote, you'll see that what struck me was these beams, powerful beams from searchlights, 5-foot diameter beam from a searchlight. Goes up in.
Yeah, it doesn't seem mundane.
I have comparison photos. You'd expect the beam would go through or past this blob of smoke and come out the other side.
It's reflecting the lights.
They stop in that blob, and there shouldn't be a stoppage there. There was something was opaque.
Yeah, that's trippy. It's like you can see it reflects. This looks like a picture I haven't seen before, or the one I saw was like this one, but then doctored. This looks more like a raw footage, like a raw file of what it looked like, and that's pretty trippy. Now, what do you think of? They're trying to say. Well, some people say that was actually that and the flyover were actually Nazis in their ships. What do you think about that whole thing? That the Nazis had somehow figured out. They didn't figure out how to put weapons on it, but
I don't accept that.
No.
If they had experimental aircraft or things that were so tremendously capable, they wouldn't dare fly them over an area where if they crashed, we could get all our secrets.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Like even with
we wouldn't fly our most advanced aircraft over the Soviet Union unless we were absolutely sure that they could come back without being shot down.
Right.
And we know, of course, that they did get shot down. This happened to Gary Powers.
Right. I remember hearing about that. Or reading about that.
Right, that was 1960, I think. We've been flying U-2 flights over Russia for several years, and the Russians, their missiles weren't capable of climbing to an altitude where they could attack the U-2. But, of course, Russian technology improved faster than our technology in raising the altitude of the aircraft. And that result was that they shot one down sometime in 60 or 60, I think.
Really?
Yeah, they shot down one of the U-2s, and the pilot came out, got down by parachute. Gary Powers was his name.
That's right, yeah. It's coming back now. I've had several head injuries, so the memory comes and goes.
I haven't had head injuries, but my memory comes and goes anyway.
Yeah, it does as we get older, too. Yeah. Selective.
Well, it's a good thing I get these interviews every now and then that help me to remind myself as to what I should... you think about it, there's 5 megabytes or more of text in my website there, and I should be able to give a cogent discussion of every one of those entries.
Mm-hmm.
As the years go on, the discussion gets less and less cogent.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can read. It's interesting to read some of the commentaries that were written 20 or 30 years ago.
It really is.
Some of the, they're all directed towards the fact that the government was using garbage explanations to put sightings to rest, to get the subject out of the common discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Like 1967, and from a police car, I see two policemen on the side of a road. A car that was parked on the side of a road in Pennsylvania saw this object up above them, and they decided, and it moved off towards the east. They decided to chase it, and they did. And when the story made it into the press, they were essentially called idiots for chasing the planet Venus. But planet Venus wasn't directly overhead.
Right.
When they started this. Well, that was a typical Blue Book type explanation.
Exactly, yeah. Now, Kecksburg, what do you think about Kecksburg?
Well, I think there was something really, really there. The description of what seemed to be happening underwater. Is that Kecksburg or is that another one?
No, the underwater, you think the one off the east coast there?
No.
Kecksburg was the one that people think is the Nazi bell, I believe,
yeah,
unless
right.
I'm...
Kecksburg is the one where they found that thing right in the forest.
Right.
And according to the witnesses, a big truck came and with a crane or something like that to lift this thing out of a flatbed truck and then drive it to wherever it went.
Mm-hmm.
All without admitting it was going on, telling the press that there was nothing to it. That's another one of many that I never investigated, but I was aware of it, of course, because it was in the news.
Yeah, a lot of people thought
about it. We can have this discussion. We can have this discussion about UFOs today under conditions that are more favorable to such a discussion, than several years ago.
Oh, absolutely. They would follow people, like conspiracy theorists and UFO groups were targeted.
The truckers' strike makes me think of the guy driving, I can't think of his name, in the 60s or 70s, who claimed he was driving his truck along some highway in Maryland, and he and his truck got abducted. I can't think of his name now, but that was a big story at the time.
How long ago was that?
What
year was this approximately?
Sometime
that the trucker got to the... I don't remember hearing
sometime in the 70s.
Wow. So some dude and his whole truck got taken, not just the guy.
That was his claim, if I recall. And, of course, it was panned.
Yeah, because even if that is true, like we had, what was the War of the Worlds, right? Like that came out, and a bunch of people were going wiggy over that.
Well, that was the radio show in 1939.
Yeah, so they didn't want to have everybody losing their minds if they found out about UFOs, thinking there was an invasion. But we're not babies anymore. We're more sophisticated than they were in the 40s and 50s. Back then,
one thing about it.
Go right ahead.
One thing about it that I realized when I was recently restudying these New Zealand sightings that I told you about.
Mm-hmm.
The guy had a 16 millimeter color movie camera with color film in it, and one of the incidents that happened is this airplane is flying along. You hear the air traffic control center, the radar guys, tell the airplane you got a big target just appeared 20 miles in front of you, and the guy gives a location for this. Meanwhile, a reporter on board the airplane says, we've got another one, it's right in front of us, it's flashing. He says at one point it seems to be rolling and turning. Oh, I don't know what's going on, he says. And when I first encountered that part of the series of sightings that night, I didn't pay much attention to it. But just recently I was thinking of how do we determine what the goals, if there are any goals of the aliens is in respect to us.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about it, you realize that then they haven't been secretive about their presence here.
No,
they haven't tried to cover. Our people have tried to cover up the sightings more than the creatures or whatever have tried to cover up.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the thing that caught my attention was what's the recorded observation is the color movie film picked up this light that was doing rolling and turning and flashing white and red and orange lights and so on, that was recorded at the time by the reporter.
Mm-hmm.
And if the things had been trying to be secretive about their presence around the airplane, they wouldn't have turned on their bright lights and gone flashing and doing maneuvers that nothing that we have could do. And then I thought back, all the way back to Kenneth Arnold. He saw 9 of these things fly by. Now, if they had wanted to be secretive, they could have gone, wherever they were going, they could have gone by some other path to avoid being seen by Arnold. But they didn't try to avoid it.
Right.
Right from the very beginning. If you read my book, the 3 minutes in June, it's sort of like the missiles of October, or 5 minutes in May, or whatever. There was a story. The time duration is a part of the significance of the sighting. That he had plenty of time to do a take and a double take and a double take and triple take and so on,
mm-hmm.
and getting an impression of what he was seeing. Of course, then there's also that he was flying near Mount Rainier, heading eastward, and these things came from the north and flew south between him and Mount Rainier, and continued on south, and they were seen by another guy who was left out of the description by the Air Force. The Air Force didn't connect up Fred Johnson, prospector on the side of Mount Adams. Now, Kenneth Arnold saw these things fly southward past Mount Rainier, and he lost sight of them when they were about Mount Adams, about 50 miles south. So it appears that the things that Arnold saw flew past Fred Johnson. He reported to the FBI and the Air Force that he was prospecting at a 5,000-foot level, and he happened to notice a flash in the sky, and he looked up and sees 4 or 5 of these things flipping and flopping, and a big thing like a tail swinging back and forth, he said. And he noticed that his compass started to wobble as a result, as these things were going by, and then it went back to normal again after they had disappeared.
That's trippy. I had never heard that.
Yep. You learn that in my book.
Wild. See, I gotta figure a way to buy one of your books off you, but I want to get it from you so I can get a signed copy.
Mm-hmm. Well, what you can do is go to Amazon, order the book, and have them ship it to me. I can send you by messenger my address. Have them ship it to me, and then I'll ship it to you.
Fantastic. That works. That's awesome. So they leave Arnold's site and then picked up by Fred.
Right.
That's trippy. Why would they not why would they not put them together? The one thing that always got me about Arnold's sighting is the description of the ship. At least the picture that you see posted along with in any article that they show Kenneth Arnold. There's that odd looking, almost like a Batman symbol, almost the bottom half of it looks like a bat's wing or something. I have never ever seen any other reports of anything that looked like that since.
There was actually Arnold's extensively written report to the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
He shows a thing that's sort of like a semicircle with a convex rear end, not exactly, maybe a fat tail, you might say.
Right.
He said there were 9 objects. Only one of them had this double concave rear end.
Okay.
And he thought that one was special. That was probably the leader, and so that's the one that attracted most of his attention. But 8 of them, they weren't complete discs. They had this section of the rear end, which was like a very dull point, you might say, or a convex sort of outline. That's what he actually drew as a picture illustrating what he saw when he sent his report to the Air Force.
Have you heard of any other reports from anyone else of a ship that looks similar to the one that Arnold reported?
Well, the double concave rear end, I haven't seen anything like that.
Right.
There were some semicircular with a sort of convex rear end. There were
like a single convex.
Some reports like that. Actually, the Trent report, the Trent object, when you look at it casually, it looks like it's an oval. It looks like it's a perfect ellipse, which would be a perfect circle seen at an angle as an ellipse.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are very careful, you can see that the left-hand side of the object, the left-hand side of the image, has this slight convex. It breaks out of the elliptical. If you fit an ellipse to the first photo, the image of the first photo, which has this circular bottom, you fit an ellipse to most of it, and then you find where the ellipse line, the fitted line, crosses the left-hand edge of this object. The left-hand edge doesn't match the ellipse perfectly. It's more of a convex shape. Kind of hard to see, but it's there.
That's trippy. So theoretically, those ships that Arnold saw, they could all link together in one, like a train. By the shape of, that's trippy. Except for the double convex.
The double convex would have been off by itself.
Mm-hmm.
That was the third from the end, I think he said. And like I said, he sort of emphasized that one when he talked because he thought its uniqueness implied that this is where the leader was in his own special.
Absolutely.
No, there's another
It makes
thing
you
I
wonder
did.
if the others may have been drones even, and that the one with the double convex was actually piloted.
Well, it makes you wonder all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it really does.
The sighting began with Arnold being alerted that something was in the vicinity by a flash of light. He says, "A flash of light on my airplane."
Mm.
He says he's flying along, looking to the east, and all of a sudden there's a flash of light on his airplane. Now this is 4:00 in the afternoon. On a clear day, the sun's June. The sun is high and behind him. So
Right.
if he says he sees a flash of light on the surface of his airplane, it must be a pretty damn bright flash of light to overpower the reflection of the sun.
Yeah.
He says he starts looking around, thinking that maybe he had gotten too close to some other airplane. There wasn't anything except about 50 or 60 miles away. He could see a DC-10 or something, some passenger aircraft heading northward. It was long, 20-some miles away from him. So he sees another flash, and this time he sees where it comes from. To his left, way up near Mount Baker, which is about 50 miles north of Mount Rainier. And as he looks, he sees more flashes coming. And these are bright flashes. The way he describes it, it lights up the inside surface of his aircraft, where the light comes through the window and hits the inside surface.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, that must be one hell of a flash of light. In this case, to travel 50 miles and still be bright enough to lighten up, to overpower the sunlight hitting the surface of the aircraft.
Yeah.
So I did a calculation of, a calculation of how bright a sun flash might be at 50 miles. This is Arnold's distance where he first saw these things. He saw they kept on flashing as they went past him. But to do my calculation, I wanted to do the longest distance of travel of the light to get the most effective divergence of the beam, and that's the beam spreading out naturally because all beams spread out, and absorption due to traveling through the atmosphere at a distance of 50 miles. Anyway, I concluded that a sun flash was not as bright as one of these flashes by a considerable amount.
Wow. Oh, geez, okay.
They were shooting like they were shining a laser beam at him.
That's wild. I'm just looking at the time here. We're almost out of time. I need to do a quick shout-out to everybody in the chat room and to people listening on any of the other platforms. You just got to come down to www.revolution.radio, and there was a question here about Admiral Byrd. I'm going to have him back on again, guys. Bruce, you're welcome back anytime you want to come back. But so come down to revolution.radio, hit the nav bar. You can check out the schedule, the archives. There's contacts so that you can do donations. There's a donation thing for you to do donations. You can go to Patreon. That's the quickest and easiest way to set up a monthly donation if you're down with that, because we need help keeping this station on the air. I want to thank Mr. Rowe for making sure we were able to get Bruce hooked up. Thanks to the chat room. Yeah, thanks a lot, Mitzi. And, yeah, Bruce, like I said, anytime you want to come back, hell, I'd have you on once a month if you want. Because there's so many of the stories that you could be getting into with us, and a lot of, actually, Jer Bear wanted to know what you think about Admiral Byrd's adventures and stuff. So I'd like to save that for the next time we have you on.
Okay.
All right. And, yeah, so once again, we've got about 30 seconds left. Mr. Rowe, you want to tell everybody about your shows?
Thursday night, 5 p.m. Pacific time, come say hello. And Mondays and Tuesdays, 1 p.m. in the afternoon, sometimes.
And Bruce's site is brewmac.mysite.com. You can find his books on Amazon or through that site, I imagine. And here we are. It's the end of the show. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks a lot, Bruce. And I'll be getting in touch with you tomorrow after I make a video for this show.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a great night, everybody.